Good morning, Stampers. This morning we're going to be making a Valentine cookie box, or it could hold anything, candy, jars of jam, or anything else you'd like to put into a box. You're going to need 2 sheets of cardstock. I've drawn my pattern out or have printed it out on a scrap piece of cardstock, but I actually used Pretty in Pink. You're going to print out the pattern on the cardstock and then cut it along all of the solid lines. You're going to need 2 of these printed and cut. Don't cut anything that's dotted, just the solid lines using your scissors. On the straight edges you could use your paper trimmer, but it's just as easy to cut the whole thing with just scissors. Once your pieces are cut out, you're going to have 2 pieces just alike. We're going to determine which is going to be the right side, and we're going to use our wheel stamp, and I use the Vintage Vogue here with Pretty in Pink ink on Pretty in Pink paper. Make sure when you're using your ink pad and a rolling stamp that you roll several times on the ink pad in one direction, roll it onto the paper the same direction, and then the next time do it the opposite of that. Pull it across. That way you get a nice pattern effect instead of every single swipe looking exactly the same. And just cover the entire sheet of paper. That gives us a little bit of depth so that it's not just plain pink. You have a little bit of color. You can actually, on the fold, once you get the fold lines done, you can actually sponge those fold lines if you want to. We're going to go ahead and cut the handle now. Mine is cut out, but I'm going to show you how I did it. You line up the 2 pieces together back to back, and then you're going to use your small oval punch. Punch through both pieces. That way you're sure they're going to line up exactly. And you can see how when you fold that back, they are perfectly matched. So that's got our 2 pieces. Now we want to use our score pal or a scoring tool, and we want to score on those dotted lines that are on the template. So you'll be scoring on the back side of the paper. This is one time when we won't be folding with the ditch or away from the ditch as we normally have been taught to do. For this particular project, it's not that crucial, and there's no way to do it since we have our score lines on the back. Now, once you get them all scored as best you can using the score pal and lining up each line, go ahead and fold all those inward and press them down so they're nice and smooth. And hopefully your box will be square if you got those lined up correctly. So now you have your 2 pieces scored and stamped on the front, and your handle cut out. Now we need to cut out the little slit that holds the back shut, the box shut. So you're going to use your matte pack or self-healing tool, and you're going to use your razor and cut out a slit, and the slit needs to be no larger than 1/16 of an inch. Just 2 tiny little slits side by side and punch it out. It's good enough. Any bigger and it's going to be a little bit sloppy, and your box won't hold quite as tight as it could if you make the slit just the perfect size. Now we're through with that part of the box for right now. We're going to do our pieces that will decorate the outside of the box. And you have 3 pieces of cardstock, and 2 of them are exactly the same size. One's just slightly larger. And then your designer paper cut to the dimensions given to you at the very beginning. And just go ahead and mat those 2 things together. I just used a snail since it's just designer paper. It's not anything that's really heavy. We'll use score pal tape to do the box so that we make sure that we have some heavy duty tape. You can use sticky strip. I just use score pal tape because it's easier to tear off. Now we have our 2 front and back pieces. Now we want to do the little heart pieces that are on the end. We have 1 piece that's long. We're going to punch the hearts in each end. If we went ahead and cut this strip apart, it'd be hard to hold on to in the punch. So I just left it long, and we're going to punch on one side and then slide the paper over and punch the other end. And then you can lay it on your grid paper and determine the halfway point, and just take your scissors and cut the piece of paper in half. That way it's a lot easier to punch when you have a nice long sheet of cardstock than it is to try to feed something small in there and hold it in place. You can save your little punch out hearts for another project. Okay, so now we have our 4 pieces ready to put on the front of our card. Okay, now take the box, and we're going to apply our score pal tape. All of the little tabs that are the end tabs, the bottom tabs that have the angle, will all get tape on the right side of the box. And then the long square tab, which is actually the bottom of the box, there'll be one strip of tape put on one side on the front. I mean the back, excuse me. So all your tabs have tape on the front, your end tab, and then the one long piece across the bottom will have tape on the inside. And try to make this as close to the fold line as possible. That way you'll have some nice crisp places where it's glued together without being gapping open. So we're going to first attach the two pieces to each other. Get your one piece there across the bottom on the inside. There we go. Now you're going to put the two pieces together. Just pull off your protective tape there and stick the two whole box pieces side by side using that one flap. And then we're going to apply our decorative front and back pieces before we glue the whole box together. You can just use snail to put those pieces on with, the matted front and the matted back. We want to make our hole for our bow, so we're going to fold back what's going to be the front, fold the handle down, and use your 1/4 inch hole punch to punch two holes a 1/2 inch apart through that hole that is now the handle. That way it'll hold the bow. Get our two decorative matted pieces on the front and back and end. And I use my Xyron to do the ends because it's hard to kind of get around those punched holes and then without having sticky everywhere, so it's just as easy to make a sticker out of that cardstock, and then it'll just easily, you can pop those right on the end pieces without having to use a glue stick or whatever to get them around the little openings. And just stick those in place. Once you have that done, then your outside is decorated and ready to assemble the actual box, make it into a box. Okay. So you fold over your whole piece, and when you do, then if you had your fold lines in the correct place, your other tab should just match up perfectly without too much effort. So peel off your protective strip there. And press the other side down into the tape. It should match up nicely. Okay, there you have your box. Now we need to build the bottom. On the bottom, you're going to peel off just the one long strip, fold all the pieces inward, and turn it up so you can see down into the box, and pull the little end flaps up out of the way and overlap the two long bottom pieces and let them go ahead and stick together. And then you'll pull off the side tape off of the little flaps and then press them down against the sides. Okay, and your box should all be nice and square. Now we're ready to add our ribbon. We're just going to push it through the holes. And this is going to be the easy ribbon like we did before. You're going to push the two ends through the holes front to back. Pull it down nice and snug. Don't pull it from the ribbon, pull it with your fingers right down close. You don't want to tear the cardstock. And then you're going to take the right side and poke it back through the left hole. and then the left piece of ribbon, and you might need your scissors here to kind of poke that through. And then you'll take the left piece and poke it through the right hole. And then you just need to work that with your fingers nice and close down to where the holes are so you don't tear the paper, until you get the ribbon nice and tight and snug down with a really nice knot. Straighten your little pieces out on the front and then trim them in a fishtail, which is what I did. You don't have to trim them in a fishtail if you just rather have straight ribbon, but this is grosgrain, so it does need to be trimmed as it will fray. And then get that twisted and flattened out nice and pretty. And then you can hold your little handles up together, the little slits on the end, go over the little points, and your box is finished and ready to decorate with whatever sentiment you want to use. Enjoy!